Hi, and welcome to the podcast channel for podcastmybusiness.com.au and also the video channel for contentmadeeasy.com.au. And we've got a regular guest back by popular demand, Alan Stevens, expert on reading faces. How are you, Alan?
Pretty good, thanks, Tony. And it's always a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you for that. And that's alanstevens.com.au. And today we're talking about, can your face reveal your personality? And it's an interesting question. I believe it does, and I've always believed that. But then again, I've studied body language and everything else, so I know that it's possible. But now there is science to back that up.
That's exactly right. That's been one of the biggest issues that most people, if you talked about facial features, telling you somebody's personality, psychologists would always immediately go to the old term of phrenology, which was based about bumps on the head and character. Well, facial
Bumps on the
features are
head?
about personality.
How can bumps on your head tell you your person? Unless you fell over and had a major injury, I can't see how that would tell anything.
Yeah, well, there was a belief, this is back in the times of early Freud and Jung and all the rest of it. They talked about there were certain, if you had certain bumps, then that would indicate that for brain development, etc., that you would be have a tendency towards being violent or serial killer, that sort of thing.
Mm.
As I always say to people, when the days when I used to be able to work on my car, when we were able to get into them and under them, etc., I guarantee every time I was under my car, I'd come out with an extra bump on my head. Yeah,
Yes.
the air had turned blue, I'd be cranky and everything else, but I didn't go out and kill anybody. So that was all pretty much a load of rubbish. But the facial features, that's a completely different story again.
Well, because that's a physical thing, isn't it? Because you're talking about muscles. Look, we all know that in Australia for crow's feet because of the sun, frown marks, and the famous thing that people just walk around
Exactly.
non-stop and you
Hmm.
go, wow, you can tell they're not happy all of
Hmm.
the time.
Yeah. Well, if you've got somebody who's got none of the crow's feet, first of all, first thing you're wondering is this person ever been happy? Because when we're really happy, the muscles around our eyes go so tight, it causes the skin there to crinkle up. And the end result is we get those lines. Now, the only other time we get it is if we're out in the sun and we're, say, working out there and we're squinting really hard to keep the sun out of our eyes. That's where we'll get it as well. But when you look at somebody, if the inside texture of the skin is lighter than the outside, probably suntan from the on the outer surface. So in squinting in the sun. But if it's the same texture, this is somebody who smiles a lot and have been really happy all the way through their life. And by the way, for the women who are listening to this, there was an old saying that beauty's only skin deep. But those lines around the eyes are beauty that goes all the way to the bone. The only people who have them are people who are really happy. So if I go into a group and I don't know anybody there, I'm going to be looking around for people's faces and I'll look for those that have got those lines. They're the ones I'm going to go and talk to because it's more likely to be an enjoyable conversation. But at the same time, what's the corner of their mouth doing? Is it pointing up or is it pointing down? If it's pointing down, this is somebody who's frowned a lot. So if they've got the lines up next to the eyes, corner mouth's turned down, happy most of their life. Lately they've been going through a tough time where they've been frowning a lot. Those muscles have got stronger and pulled the corner down. If they've got no lines up the top but their mouth is turned up, they've probably had a bit of Botox. So it's a bit of a giveaway. It's a combination of the traits that give you so much information.
The stretch of,
Oh, some people, their expression, you ask them to smile, you ask them to frown, you ask them to give you an angry look, and it doesn't change.
yeah. So you know they've had it done. All right. Well, look, I'm quite happy to be a guinea pig when it comes to the facial expression because we know each other enough now that you know what my personality is like
Yeah.
anyway. Um, so we don't need to worry about that. So what are we looking for in the face in relation to personality a bit more specifically?
Well, three things that everybody notices when we look at people is the width of the face, the height of the eyebrows, and also the closeness of the eyes or the width of the eyes. Those are really wide set or close set. The width of the face, if you ask people, you have a whole lot of people lined up and you ask them to look at, say, three faces. You've got a narrow face, and a wide face, and something that's in between, and you ask them which one looks the most confident. Most people will say the wider face. Next, you'll get the people saying the middle face, and very few people will say the very narrow face. If you ask them, well, which one looks the most trustworthy? You'll get a lot of them going two or three, the middle one or the wide face. Very few people go to the narrow face again. And so everybody profiles, everybody looks at other people and makes judgment. But because not everybody says that the wide face is the most confident, there's some that go to number two, or the middle face. The end result is that it shows that everybody profiles and everybody is judgmental in the way they read people. Whereas when I train people, 100 people look at a person, they're going to profile them exactly the same. So we make a scientific judgment on where they actually fit.
Now, is that because a wider face, you have more data input because there's more face and skin and what have it available compared to a skinnier face?
No, it's all to do with the actual synaptic connections in the brain. What it comes down to, by the way, if we look at somebody's skull, it's like our fingerprints. There's no two skulls that have the same shape on the planet. Everybody's different. It's one of the reasons when we're born, for two reasons actually. When we're born, we've got a very small head and face. And the idea of that is number one, so that we're able to get through the birth canal without injuring mum too much. At the same time, as we get older, our brain grows. Depends on how we think and process where the synaptic connections are made in the brain. And as that develop, the skull actually forms a shape around the brain. Because if we didn't, we'd end up, if we, excuse me, if the skull was set and the brain was growing, we'd have pressure on the brain at different points. That's life-threatening. At the same time, there'd be areas where there'd be a lot of space, and that'd be another problem because the brain would rattle. So the end result is the skull follows the brain as it grows. And so that's why our sutures slowly seal over time to when they're fully sealed around our early 20s. And so because that's when we have set up our nurture traits nature traits, first of all, that we were born with in the DNA, but we've now established those nurture traits that we have chosen how to respond to events in our life that then forms those other facial features and also the shape of the skull that determines where we're going to be for the rest of our life.
Yeah, that's interesting. I live at the moment in an area where people seem to be quite friendly and whatever, and I'm walking up the road and people always smile at me. Non-stop people smile at me. Now, I think that's because I've got a general positive disposition. Even when I'm walking down the road, I think I've got a more open face. But why would that happen so often?
Well, it's going to happen for two reasons. Number one, the energy you're putting out. If you have that positive attitude, it's going to be shown in your body, the way you walk, the way you breathe, etc., the rate of breathing. Breathing that's down in towards the abdomen always comes across as more confident, more relaxed, etc. When we get panicky, we start to breathe in the chest because it becomes more rapid. But you'd be walking around with a determined posture, etc., a determined strut in the way you walk. People will see that. The facial features that you have also show somebody that's quite affable and a lot easy to get along with. There's one of the things that first time I saw you was, here's a man that I can have a great conversation with. Anything I throw at him, he can throw back at me. So I know that we can have a lot of humour in the conversation. So I don't have to worry about being too politically correct, because I know that if I throw something, you'll tell me if it's misplaced, but you won't respond. Like some people will be what I call a very fussy. They take things personally when they think it's, you've said something that's been directed at them, etc., and they hold it in and hold it against you. Whereas in your case, it's just going to come back as a comment, and there'll be a bit of sarcasm there, but it'll be a humorous sarcasm. The only time it'll come back as just straight sarcasm is if you're stressed. So now I've got the tone of voice that then tells me, what level is this at? Is this something that, hey, we're going to just go backwards and forwards and have a lot of banter here and have a good laugh? Or, maybe I need to pull that up a little bit. What did I say? Or more to the point, what else is affecting you in the process? But your width of your face, that also shows people as well. The fact that your eyes and your eyebrows are so close together, this is an affable trait. Think about somebody who's got fear and surprise. The eyebrows go up. They pull back, we pull back.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing here, that with those low set eyes, I know that you're comfortable standing close to people when you meet them for the first time. And you'll be relaxed when you do it. But if somebody came up to you and they stand close to you, you're fine. If they came up and stood close to somebody who's got the higher set eyebrows feels uncomfortable, they'll pick that up. the other and think, well, is this person trustworthy?
Mm.
So it's a combination of all your traits that people would see you in the street and have a connection with you straight away.
Yeah, and we met in business networking. We both still do lots of business networking. It's interesting. I would call it experiments. I'm known for being loud. Don't know why. But I walk into networking events and I say hello loudly. Yeah, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I've had a few bit of feedback from going, turn this a bit loud. I'm going, yeah, it's holiday. So now I've been trialing it out, just standing there without saying anything
Mm.
and see what reaction I get. And I still get their reaction. So maybe I don't need to be as loud, but I do get people asking me, is there anything wrong by not being as loud?
Well,
So,
it's more to the point that when you walk in, if you've got, as I said, that posture, etc.,
yeah.
people will notice it. Back in the earlier days when I started my first business, there were a number of us in partnership. And we walked into a pub one afternoon, the band was playing and everything else. And as we came through the door, the whole place stopped. We made no noise coming in. It was the four of us. We just walked through the door. But we walked through with so much presence that even the band noticed it. So people will pick that up first of all. So you don't have to be noisy when you walk through. The fact that if you stand there and you're quieter, people will be going to wonder, well, what else is going on here? Why? They'll see somebody who is more authoritative, somebody who doesn't need to make a noise. Because let's face it, we look at kids who are yelling and carrying on. They're all jockeying for their position. They're trying to show everybody that they're an alpha or whatever. That's insecurity. But somebody who doesn't need to make a noise, that's somebody you need to watch. That's somebody who's got some authority.
Mm. That's interesting. So you just put out a paper on LinkedIn or a post on LinkedIn. I was just having a look at it before. And this is what we wanted to cover today is what your faces about you with the neuroscience and rapid trait profiling. So do you want to take us through that a little bit?
Well, one of the things that, because we were talking about faces and personality, a lot of flack I've had over the last 2.5 decades has been all about the fact of, is this phrenology? Is this bumps on the head stuff?
Yeah.
Is this clairvoyance? Because I'd walk into a room and and I just start telling people what I'm seeing when they ask me. It almost sounds like they're in front of a clairvoyant. But what I'm doing is I'm not looking for anything else other than what I can see in their face. And I'm talking about that. I'm talking about how those buttons would be pushed. So I set out, did a lot of research, and I realised that our personalities are made up of our nurture traits and our nature traits. The nature traits passed down in our genes from our parents in the DNA, and the nurture traits that we create as all the events in our life, we choose to respond to everything that happened, and we create those indicators on our face. So the combination of those create our personality. But to prove it, I went out and looked at, I found 13 sciences, which are all peer-reviewed, that support the facial features in the nurture traits, the ones that we create. At the same time, that's looking at neurobiology, neuroscience, epigenetics. There's a whole range of 13 different sciences. So it virtually showed that they are peer-reviewed, not so much peer-reviewed, but inferred through the peer review that the others have received as being scientific. At the same time, the nature traits have been supported by 5 other sciences, and again, one of them is the neurobiology. It supports both sides, but also the psychologist Big 5 profiling system, which is the only recognised scientific profiling system on the planet. Now, with theirs, they have a little bit of self-reporting. There is no self-reporting in mine. Everything is from the observation that we're able to pick up. So we don't get that input of the other person worrying about how do I say this? How do I answer it? What are they going to think about me? So 5 sciences that have proven the nature trait side of it, 13 sciences that have proven the nurture traits. So now we've got something that is proving that this is the only, other than the psychologist Big 5, this is the only other scientific profiling system on the planet. And it shows that it has none of the drawbacks that all the other profiling systems have, like Disc, Myers-Briggs, etc., with self-reporting and all those things. And those are in the instant in that situation. Because I look at somebody and say, right, at work, I can see how you behave like this. Oh, but I know this is your home life, so I know how you'll behave there, which is completely different. So somebody who is dominant in, say, a disc profile at work might be totally something different at home. So those are static and in the situation, whereas mine is dynamic, and it doesn't matter what you put the person in, you know exactly how they're going to be treated and behaved in that area.
Mm. So, as always, I like to have tips and what have you. Now, I guess one thing I'm curious about is if someone is permanently or seems to be permanently just like that,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything they can do about changing that?
Well, one of the reasons that they would have that expression of being sadness, etc., and the corner of the mouth turned down here, look at your lifestyle. Look at the people you're hanging around. You know, if you're listening to the news all the time, ask yourself, okay, I'm listening to the world news. Can I change any of this? If you can't, what's the use of watching it? Because all it's doing is eating away at you, because every thought we have creates a chemical reaction. So if you've got the wrong chemistry running through your body, it's eating your organs. It's affecting your health. So it's always a case of, okay, how do I want to be? Before I got into this, when I was a massage therapist many, many years ago, and somebody came to me and said, look, I've really got to change my health, etc. And I'd say, well, tell me about how you're thinking. They tell me, oh, I'm thinking this way. Okay, well, forget about how you're thinking. How does that make you feel? And they go, oh, it makes me feel this way. Well, you don't want to feel that way. How do you want to feel? And they say, I want to feel this way. Okay, describe that. And I get them using all of their senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. If they enjoyed walking. Where are you walking? Oh, down the beach. Are you in the sand? Are you in the water? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? By the time we had that conversation, their thoughts are completely changed. And that's how they change their thoughts, by not working on the old thoughts, but working on the way they were under feel and the thoughts that align with that, because our neurology and physiology are permanently linked. So as we get that change, then that would change their health. So that's a tip there, without even getting into face profiling. Look at the friends you've got around you, look at the stuff you're taking in, looking at how you're getting involved in things that you can't really change. If you can't change them, then move away from them.
Yeah, that's true. And like we know, you walk into a room with people, the first thing you should do is smile. So smiling is very, very important, and smile all the way. In fact, now I tell everyone when someone's taking a photo, laugh, because laugh is better than just a smile. Because
That's it.
laugh animates the entire face, not just a little bit.
Because if you just use your lips, that's all you've got. That really comes across as a what they call just a social smile. It's a smile you would give. You remember when we were kids and our auntie gave us a pair of socks and we'd say thank you with a little smile on our face,
Yeah.
But when you engage the eyes, and as you said, when you laugh, you engage the eyes, and that's when the
Mm,
whole face shows it.
mm.
And that's the smile that people are looking for.
Yeah, and certainly, an emotive reaction. I like to use humor because humor is an emotion,
Mm,
and if you get people emotionally engaged, they're more likely to be attracted to you for whatever reason than if they're not.
that's it. So that's like, if I got someone like you who has that dry wit, the first thing I'm going to do is get into something to get you to laugh.
Yeah,
And so I'll be going for that humour straight away with someone like you. If I've got somebody who's likely to take things personally, I'll find a different way of doing it. It might just be a smile that I give them.
yeah,
And then I may pay them a compliment. But the compliment it's never flattery. It's always, if something I like about them, I give them the reason why I like it about them. And that makes a connection with them. And while you're saying that, smile as well, you'll always get the smile back.
Okay, so what's a tip for the next time I walk into a room with people? What should I be doing?
Well, as I said, as you're already doing, walk in, look around, smile at a few people, look for the response that comes from the one that gives you the biggest smile. That's always a person to go and actually have a chat with. Draw towards them. But, keep that smile on your face when you're talking, but make sure that it's connected to what you're feeling at the time. If it's not, it'll come across as fake.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was about to say. Make sure you're actively listening to what the people are saying to you, not just pretending to listen and being distracted. Give them your full attention.
Yeah, well, if you're in a conversation, I might open up with one question at the start. After that, I'm not listening to respond. I'm listening to understand them, because the problem is with most people who are having conversations, there's two conversations going on in our head. One is we're thinking about what we're saying when we're talking. The other one is we're thinking about what we're going to say next. So we're not listening to the other person, we're just listening to the voice in our own head. So really, you might say in a lot of cases, we're schizophrenic with those two conversations going at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. I mean, sorry, talking about that, I got distracted outside, but two conversations at the same time. Yeah, and look, it is possible to do that. There's a theory of multitasking, and I'll just deal with that. There's no such thing
Doesn't work.
as multitasking. It's a myth.
Yeah. So if anybody's listening to this and they think they are a great multitasker, get a piece of paper and a pen and a stopwatch, and turn the stopwatch on and go write A to Z, the whole alphabet, and then 1 to 26. So the letters first, the number second, or vice versa, and time yourself. Then come back and go A1, B2, C3, and see how long it takes you. Even those who think they're great at multitasking will find it takes them a little bit longer, which means then multitasking doesn't work. We time division.
Yeah.
Multitasking means doing two things at once. We don't. We're switching backwards and forwards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, people do try and do it. The reality is you're nowhere near as efficient at either
Exactly.
task. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that one day babies get picked up by the mother, and one day they'll be stirring the lasagna, stirring the water for the pasta, and the baby will end up in the water because it'll just be.
Well, in a lot of cases, they've done it so often picking the child up, it's not really a task.
Mm.
It's not something they're actually doing. They're just, their body's holding that pose and they're busy doing the other things. So they're really only focused on the pasta itself, not the baby.
Yeah, that's right, and that's a problem.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's when
with that
accidents do
cognitive
happen.
dissonance.
What was that?
Cognitive dissonance, one of my favorite things. People drive home, they do it every day. There can be a truck in the street, they don't even see it because they're not consciously even looking because it's the same thing day in, day
That's
out.
it. Yep.
Mm.
Ask a lot of people, which way did you come home to today when there's multiple ways? Half the time they've got to stop and think.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing with mobile phones. Oh, yeah. And we won't even get into that. That's why they crack down
Well,
on them.
that's another conversation, I think, just on its own.
Well, we can get to that next month. We'll think about how you can prevent yourself from being distracted. That is something we need to think about. All right, Alan, thanks for your time. So that's alanstevens.com.au. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's about it, really. But as I said before, there's always my free course if people want to get a bit of a handle on how the traits work, so they can test it out for themselves. As I always say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, not the
Yes.
stirring of it, not the baking of it. But when you test something that somebody's talked about, that's when you know whether something works or not.
Well, I've got plenty of meetings coming up in the next few days. I'm going to do that. I'm going to step in and just look around the room, and whoever gives me the biggest smile, I'm going to head straight for them.
And let me know how it goes.
I shall. All right. Thanks, Alan. Have fun.
Cheers.